Aman, is it audible? Aman. Aman. Sohan,
Yes, sir.
is it audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you seeing the notepad editor? Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What happened to remaining people? What was the previous class strength? Sohan?
51, sir.
51. What happened to remaining people? Okay. So evaluate function. It's a built-in function, guys. So using evaluate function, what we can do? So it is alternate to typecasting. So what is typecasting? We can convert from one type to another type with the help of typecasting functions available in the Python programming language. So another style to convert from one format to another format is what? Is evaluate function. So what it does? It is an alternate way to the typecasting. So if you are reading the value with the help of input function, so how the input is read? Hello. What's the format of value available in the, what's the format of value which is read with the help of input function? String format. So the value which is read with the help of input function is stored in the form of string. It is available in the form of string. So if it has to be converted into the required format, what's the procedure?
Typecasting.
So typecasting functions has to be used. So typecasting functions available with the Python programming language has to be used for converting from one type to another type. So those things we have discussed in the initial sessions, right? So while discussing about typecasting, we discussed about the typecasting functions, isn't it? Hello.
Yes,
Did we
sir.
discuss or not?
Yes, sir.
So in today's session, so we are going to discuss about evaluate function. So it is alternate to the typecasting. So let us consider here. So the how it looks like evaluate function. So evaluate function is requiring how many number of inputs? Please respond. How many inputs? How many number of parameters are passed to evaluate function?
One
value. So one value is passed as input for the evaluate function. So how many parameters? Only one parameter. So the input function is returning a value in the form of string. So if the value which is read by this particular input function is a non-decimal value, but it is available in the form of which format? String format. Then if I'm using evaluate function, so what it does, it converts into integer data type. If the value supplied by the end user, is a decimal value, then what happens? It converts the value into which data type? Floating point data type. If the value supplied by the end user is a complex number, but that value is in the form of string, but when I'm using evaluate function, what happens? It converts into what? The complex type. If I'm giving a list of elements here, okay, so when I'm giving list of elements here, when I'm using evaluate function, So data type will be converted into list data type. The X data type, if you observe, so it will display it in the form of what? List. So let us consider the following code. So let us copy this code into the ID. Okay. So copy this code. So what happened to remaining people? It is 11:36 a.m. Only 35 members are attending the session. What happened to remaining people? Only 34 members. Previous class strength is 50 plus. What happened to my session? Are you following? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So I'm expecting full strength from your section. You people belong to CSC, guys. Please remember, Python programming language is important subject. So in this semester, so the important subject is Python programming language. So out of 4 subjects or 5 subjects, Python is considered as the critical one. It is important subject for you people. It is having huge demand in the market. Please try to focus upon the Python programming language. Just for the sake of attendance or just for the sake of marks, don't focus upon the sessions, guys. Please try to learn the concepts. It is very important. It is very useful for your career. Okay, so let us copy the code into the ID. I'm copying the code into ID. Are you seeing the code window?
Yes, sir.
So I have copied the code. So what I have written here, I have used evaluate function, evaluate of input. So what's the need of input? So with input function, what we are doing? We are reading value from the end user dynamically. So the red value is available in the form of string. Okay. So x equal to eval of input. So print the type of x. So if you observe the type of this particular x variable, so it depends upon what? Depends upon the value given by the end user. Let us suppose the value given by the end user is a non-decimal value. So even though it is read in the form of string, but it will convert into what? A non-decimal. Means what? It converts into integer data type. So the data type assigned to x variable is what? Integer. Let us suppose if I am giving a decimal value to what? Decimal value is given to the, if decimal value is given by the end user, then it is stored in the form of string, right? So when I'm giving that particular value to the evaluate function, what it does, it converts into floating point data type. Now if you look into the type of x, so it displays the type of x as what? Floating point. So if you are having any kind of doubts, let us check. Okay, this particular example is an example for evaluate function. So save the code. So save the code into the consent path, into the required path. So here I'm saving into the Python folder, so which is located in the on the desktop. So Python CSCB. So give some meaningful name. So here I'm giving the name of the program as example for what? Example for what?
Evaluate.
Evaluate function. So eval function example 1 dot py. Save the code, then run the program. See the shell window, what it is asking for? What it is asking for? Enter a value. Let us suppose if I am giving 10 here. So 10 is what kind of value?
Integer type.
Non-decimal value. So when it is non-decimal value, so when I'm assigning, when I'm giving 10, which is a non-decimal value, so this particular 10 is read in the form of what? String. So when it is given as input for the evaluate function, what it does? It converts into integer data type. Okay, so see the output, what it will show. See the output. Are you seeing the shell?
Yes, sir.
So here I have given 10. So what's the output?
Integer.
So this is the output. Now you run the program for one more time and give a different kind of value. Okay, so run the program. Run the program. So what it is asking for?
Value.
Value. Let us suppose if I am giving a decimal value, okay, 10.5. What it shows?
Float.
Float.
Float data type. See here, it is showing the data type as float. It is converting into the required data type or not. So based upon the value given by the end user. If it is a decimal value, so gives what? It converts into the type as float. So converting what? String type into float. So when the value given by the end user is 10.5, means what? When decimal value is given, so when it is read in the form of string, it is converted into what? Floating point data type when evaluate function is used. So instead of eval, so here I can use float or not? Hello, can I use float here?
Yes, sir.
But if the requirement changes, so assume that if user is giving a complex number, does it converts into the floating point data type?
No.
But it has to be converted into complex type. So then in such case, what we have to do? So here we have to mention what? Complex function, complex type of type conversion function has to be used. So for each type, we have to write the logic, isn't it? But according to the type of value, if it has to be converted into the required type or into the corresponding type means, so to meet that kind of requirement, so can we go with the existing type conversions functions? Hello?
No, sir.
So solution is available in the form of evaluate. So this particular evaluate function is what? It's an alternate way to the typecasting. Okay. So let us check with different kind of values, guys. Run the program for one more time. Are you seeing the shell? Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Are you seeing the shell? Now I will give a different kind of value here, input. So I'm giving input in the form of square braces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in braces I have mentioned. Now can anyone guess what will be the output?
List.
List. See here, the data type of X has converted into what? List. So if I'm giving different kind of input here, let us consider, let us run the program for one more time. Run the program. Now I'm giving list object. Okay. How list is, sorry, how tuple is represented?
Circular basis.
Circular braces. You can mention different kind of elements here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So here, what it has shown. So based upon the input provided by the user, which is stored in the form of string, is converted into the corresponding type. So which can be achieved with the help of what? Evaluate function. Is it clear? Are you following?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
So go to the notepad editor. Are you seeing the notepad editor?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So let us suppose if I am giving 10 plus 5j, what will be the output? 10 plus 5j. What is this format?
Complex.
Complex number. So what will be the data type of X? X will be assigned with which data type? Complex data type. Let us suppose if I am giving true. Okay. TRUE. So the first character is mentioned in uppercase and remaining letters are mentioned in lowercase. So when this kind of value is assigned, so what's the data type of X?
Boolean.
Boolean. Suppose if I am giving false here, true, or even if I am giving false, okay. Instead of true, if I am giving false, FALSE. Now
Boolean.
Boolean. It becomes, if the value is a Boolean value, Boolean. Okay. So it displays the data type of X as Boolean data type. Okay. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Suppose if I am writing like this, so in place of capital F, if I am mentioning the set of characters as follows: FALSE. All are mentioned in lowercase. All are mentioned in lowercase. Then in such case, what happens?
String.
So it displays in the form of string data type. So reason, Why it is not considered as Boolean type?
F is small letter.
F is smaller.
So when you want to reprint the Boolean values in Python programming language, like true or false in Boolean values in Python programming language, the first character should be mentioned in uppercase, remaining characters has to be mentioned in lowercase. So false, the first character of the Boolean value has to be specified in uppercase, remaining characters of the Boolean value has to be mentioned or specified in lowercase. So when this kind of thing is mentioned, so it is not considering it as the Boolean data type. So which thing it is going to consider? It is considering the data type of X as what?
String.
Data type, string data type. Okay. So please be careful while giving what? While you are dealing with the Boolean values. Okay. So this is something about what? Evaluate function. So let us start with a new topic. So input and output statements. Input and output statements. So if you are dealing with the inputs that are needed for the program, so obviously we need to go with the concept of what? Input statements. So if you want to display some kind of output from the program execution, so you must know about the output statements of the programming language. So these input and output statements are needed. So to deal with inputs, we need input statements. So to display something onto the screen, so which is a kind of output. So to do that, we are using output statements. So first of all, we will deal with input statements, then we will look with output statements. Okay. So input statements. So when it is Python 2.x version, Python 2.x function, Python 2.x. So what is this Python 2.x representing? 2.x.
1, 2, 3.
So what it is? This X can have any value. What it is representing? This 2.x is representing what? It is representing the version of the software. Okay. So in Python 2.x program, in Python 2.x versions, so we are having two kind of functions, guys. For reading values from the end user, we were having two things. So raw input is there, and also what? We were having input function. Is it clear? So it
Yes,
is not
sir.
same as what? The input function which we are seeing in Python 3.x. Now we are using which version, guys?
Python 3.x.
Python 3.x. So the input function which we have seen in the earlier example is not same as the input function in the Python 2.x. So this input function is different. So we were having two kind of input functions in Python 2.x. So first one in the form of raw input, second one in the form of what? Input function. So when we are using raw input function for reading a value from the end user dynamically, then the value is read in the form of string. As what we are seeing in the input function in Python 3.x, the same thing happens with what? Raw input function in Python 2.x. So in Python 2.x, to read the value from the end user in the form of string dynamically, so which function is used by the programmer, guys? Hello? Which function is used for reading value from the end user dynamically in the form of a string? Which function is used in Python 2.x? Please respond, guys. Are you able to understand or not? Raw input function and input function. So both are called as what? Input functions available in Python 2.x versions of the Python programming language. So these raw input or input are used for reading values from the end user dynamically. So to read value or values from the end user dynamically, so Python programmers in Python 2.x has used what? These two functions for reading values from the end user dynamically. So input function or raw input function are doing what? Job of reading the value from the end user dynamically. Okay. So let us consider the first input function, raw input. So if you consider the raw input function, what it is doing? So it is available in Python 2.x, which reads the value in the form of what? String. So can we see this raw input function in Python 3.x? Is it available? No, it is not available, guys. This raw input function is not available in Python 3.x. So which function is available in Python 3.x for reading value from the end user dynamically? Which function is available? Input function. So we are having input function. Input function is used. Input function is used for reading the value from the end user dynamically. Okay, let us suppose if I am using input function. Okay, input function in which version, guys? Which version? Python 2.x. Python 2.x. So when it is Python 2.x, so if I am reading the value with the help of input function, so let us suppose if user is giving the input in the form of a non-decimal value, then x will be assigned with which data type? As 10 is a
Integer.
non-decimal value, so it considers the data type of x as integer data type. So if I'm giving a decimal value, 10.56 is given, then the x data type will become what? It becomes floating point data type. So if I'm giving a complex value, so while at the time of reading the value with the help of input function, then x will become what? X will become which type? X will become complex type. So based upon the type of value given by the user, so that particular corresponding value, that particular corresponding type is assigned to the variable automatically. So that happens with input function in which version of Python programming?
Python 2.x.
So 2.x, but not in Python 3.x. Are we seeing the same thing in Python 3.x? So if I am reading the value with the help of input function in Python 3.x, so how the value is read? So whether you are giving 10 or 10.56 or GVK or 10 plus 5J, so the value is available in the form of what?
String.
String format. Please remember, guys, difference between input function available in Python 2.x and Python 3.x. So if you are using input function in Python 2.x, so based upon the value given by the end user, based upon the value, so the concerned data type is assigned to the variable. But when it is the case of input function in Python 3.x, so whether you are reading a decimal kind of value or non-decimal kind of value or string sequence of characters or whatever value you are giving, so it always reads the value in the form of string. So that is the difference between what? The input type of functions in Python 2.x and Python 3.x. Are you understanding?
Yes,
Are you following, guys? So are you understanding the differences between the Python 2.x and Python 3.x? So do we have raw input function in Python 3.x? Point to be remembered.
Yes.
It is not available. So which function is available? Input function is available. Is it same as the input function available in Python 2.x?
No, sir.
It is not the same. So please remember. So Python 3.x. So when it is input function in Python 3.x, so what it does? So we are reading the input from the end user dynamically in the form of what?
string.
String. So it works like what? Raw input in Python 2.x or not? Hello.
Yes, sir.
So it is acting like raw input function in Python 2.x or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is the case. So we already discussed about type conversion functions, right? So input function. So input in Python 3.x we have discussed, but not Python 2.x. So when you are installing this particular Python software from the python.org, so which version is available? Which version is available over the website? Hello, Python 3.x or Python 2.x?
Python 3.x.
Which version of Python software is available in the python.org site? So Python 3.x is available. So we don't have support for the Python 2.x, guys. Okay. So earlier we have the support for Python 2.x. Right now we were using which version of Python programming? Python 3.x.
3.x.
Python 3.x. So if you are working on the project which is having Python 2.x version related Python software, right? So there as part of that software, that means when you are when you are automating the things, right? When you are automating the things, if you get a requirement of reading a value from the end user, which has to be read in the form of a string, means you can go with the concept of what? Raw input, but not input. So when input function is used, so based upon the type of value given by the end user, so it converts into the necessary type. So it is done automatically. So we need not to use typecasting functions in Python 2.x. So when at the time of reading the value with the help of input function in Python 2.x, but when it is the case of Python 3.x, so do we need typecasting functions or not? Hello. Hello.
Sir.
Are you following?
Sir.
Okay. Let us consider an example. So married. Married is a variable. So what I have done? What is this bool function?
Yes, sir.
What is this bool function?
Yes, sir. Boolean function.
Typecasting.
Typecasting function, type conversion function, or typecasting function. So what's the value? What's the value we are giving to this particular bool function? See here. So here I'm writing input. So what's the role of input?
Read the values.
So we are reading a value from the end user. Okay. So we are giving a message like, are you married? Are you married? So here I'm giving the options as true or false, because Boolean values. So if you consider any Boolean value, so the first character of the Boolean value will start with what?
Uppercase.
Uppercase, remaining are repeated with help of lowercase. So true or false. So in these two options, one of the value has to be given, either true or false. So mentioned in the following format. So it has to follow the case. Okay. So don't ignore the case. So either true or false has to be given. Let us suppose if I'm giving true. Okay. See here what I'm displaying, print of married. So what's the content of married here? What does it contain? So when it executes this Boolean statement, what's the result? Hello? What will be the result, guys? So when Boolean function is executed, what it returns? Hello?
True or false?
True or false? That's it. True or false will be available. So print of married will display what kind of value?
True.
Either true or false. Isn't it? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It has to display either true or false. Okay. Now let us consider the case. Okay. So when I'm executing this particular program, so what it has done? So on the output screen, I'm going to see this kind of message. So user has to give a value. Now user has given what? What value?
True.
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 When true is given, what's the output of print statement?
Married.
Huh? What does married consist of?
True.
True or false? Okay. So we will get true. True will be the output. Now you run the program for one more time. Let us execute this particular program in the IDE. Then you will understand easily. Okay. So let us copy this code into the IDE. Are you seeing the code window?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So it is an example for what? The importance of the evaluate function, guys. So let us give some example. Importance of evaluation function. Save as importance of eval function. Importance of eval function. Example 1 dot. Okay. Save the code, then run the program. So are you seeing the code? So what I have written? I have written only 2 lines of code here. So married is what? It is representing a variable. So bool of input. So inside of the input, so I have given a message. Okay. So the message which is part of this double quotes will be displayed as it is onto the output screen when it executes the input function and it reads a value from the end user dynamically. So run the program. Are you seeing the shell?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What it has displayed? Are you married? So what user has to do? User has to give either true or false. Okay. Let us suppose user has given true. User has given true. Now, what's the content of married, guys? Can you guess?
True.
True. Is it the output which I'm expecting from the program execution? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Now
Yes,
you
sir.
run the program for one more time. Okay. And you try with different kind of input. Run the program. You run the program. Then, are you seeing the shell?
Yes, sir.
So what it is asking for? What it is asking for?
To enter true or false.
True or false. Let us suppose if I am giving false here. Okay. I'm following the proper case. False. And I have given false. Now, what will be the result? Can anyone guess?
False.
False. Okay. Let us check. What happened here?
True is the result.
True is the result. So is it the correct output which I am expecting from the program execution?
No, sir.
No. So what's the fault? Let us check the code, guys. So go to the notepad editor. Go to the notepad editor. So see the case. So okay, we will check with other kind of input, guys. Okay. So let us run the program for one more time. So I'm executing the program for one more time. Okay. So are you seeing the shell? Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
So here I'm giving A, B, C, D. What happened?
True.
True.
But what I want, what I am expecting, either true or false, even for other kind of values. So what it is tracing? What it is giving?
True.
True. So is it the correct output which I'm expecting from the program execution?
No, sir.
No. So now let us see the fault. So what happened with the logic? So see the notepad editor, go to the notepad editor. So are you seeing the notepad editor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if the input given by the end user is X, again it displays the value as true. So for any value, for any kind of data, so it will always show what? True. So if you look into the typecasting function of Boolean function, so when Boolean function receives, and Boolean function receives a non-empty string as input for the Boolean typecasting function, it always returns what? True. So above problem is occurred because of the Boolean typecasting function. So when I'm giving the input in the form of a string, so which is a non-empty string. So when non-empty string is given as input for the Boolean typecasting function, what it returns? It always returns true. So whether you are giving true or false or X or Y or 1 or 2, or if you are giving any kind of data, so when you are reading the data, when you are giving the input with the help of the input function, that value is read in the form of the string. So if it is non-empty, then it reads. So when you are using this Boolean typecasting function, so it always returns what? True. But it should not be happen. So to deal this kind of problem, solution is what? We are going with the concept of what? Evaluate function. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Hello. Are you understanding the importance of this particular evaluate function?
Yes, sir.
So when I'm using Boolean typecasting function here, what happened here? So when it considers the input in the form of a string, which is a non-empty one, non-empty string, so it always returns what? True, but it should not be happen. So when I'm going with the help of this particular Boolean typecasting function, so when it takes the input in the form of a non-empty string, it always returns true. So when we are passing an empty string to the Boolean typecasting function, what it returns?
False.
False will be returned. So here we are not dealing the situation with the help of Boolean typecasting function. So how solution can be given? By using evaluate function. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So are you understanding the importance?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
It's a built-in
Yes, sir.
function. It's a built-in function. It is a predefined function which is coming along with the Python programming language, guys. Okay, so it's an alternate to which concept?
Typecasting.
Typecasting. Please remember the point. Okay, so let us copy the code and run the program in the IDE. So go to IDE and copy the code. Okay. Are you seeing the code window?
Yes, sir.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
So after saving, so give some meaningful name. So it is representing the importance of evaluate function. Importance of eval function. Eval function. Example 2 dot py. Okay. So save the logic, then run the program. Now see the shell window. What it is asking for? Please respond.
Are we waiting?
Input.
Input. Now I am giving true. And I'm giving true. What it has shown?
True.
True. No issues with this execution. Okay. Let us consider. Let us check with the another kind of value. Okay. So run the program for one more time. Run the program. Now, what is visible to you? Are you seeing the shell?
No, sir. Yes, now we can see.
Is it visible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Yes, sir.
So give a different kind of
Yes, sir.
value. Here I'm giving false. So what it has shown?
False.
False.
False. Is it the correct output?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So let us check with other kind of value. So other than true and false, we will give other kind of values. Okay. So let us check with the third case. That means giving other than true or false. Okay. Run the program for one more time. So are you seeing the shell?
Yes, sir.
So here I have given ABCD. So ABCD is a Boolean value.
No, sir.
See here. What it is showing?
Error.
Error. Is it the correct output?
No,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
No, sir.
Correct output or not? So for ABCD, it has to raise an error. So it's the correct output, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The correct output. So, but when I'm using Boolean typecasting function, what happened there? So it has allowed any kind of value or not?
Yes, sir.
But it should not be happen to avoid such kind of situations in Python programming language. So we can go with the concept of what? Eval function. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So please remember the point, guys. So when you are using Boolean typecasting function, so please be careful. Okay. So when you are using Boolean typecasting function, if the input passed to the Boolean typecasting function is a non-empty string, then in such case, what it returns? Hello. What's the
True.
result?
True.
True or false?
True, sir.
It returns true. It returns always true when a non-empty string is passed as an input for the Boolean typecasting function. So when an empty string is passed as an input for the Boolean typecasting function, what's the result?
False.
False is the result. Is the point clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Are you
Yes,
understanding
sir.
the importance of evaluate function? Eval
Yes, sir.
function in Python. So it is one of the important built-in function available in the Python programming language, guys. Please remember the importance. Okay. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
So if you are having any kind of doubts, you can ask me, or else you can leave the session. I'm expecting 100% attendance from CSC B and CSC C. Please remember, guys, it is not for the sake of attendance or for the sake of marks. I'm giving the concepts. I'm delivering the lecture. So it is important for you people. Please focus upon the subject. I'm expecting 100% attendance. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Everyone, guys.
Yes, sir.
100% అటెండెన్స్ ఎక్స్పెక్ట్ చేస్తున్నానమ్మా. ఏదో టైం పాస్ కోసమో ఏదో అటెండెన్స్ కోసమో కాదమ్మా. పైథాన్ ప్రోగ్రామింగ్ లాంగ్వేజ్ ఈ సబ్జెక్ట్ మీ కెరీర్ కి యూజ్ అవుతుందమ్మా. ప్రాపర్ గా ఫోకస్ చేయండి, రెగ్యులర్ గా అటెంప్ట్ చేయండి. అర్థం కాకపోతే అడగండి అమ్మా. సో ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఏమైనా ఉంటే అడగండి. యూ కెన్ ఆస్క్ మీ. హలో,
So,
చెప్పండి అమ్మా.
why ABCD raised an error? Can you tell again, sir?
సారీ,
Why did ABCD raise an error in this thing? Can you tell again?
సో ABCD. So here it has to accept either true or false, but not what?
Why, sir? But you never defined it as Boolean type, no, sir. Why only true or false, sir?
Check with other kind of values, then you will understand. So we have already seen with evaluate function in the previous example or not?
Yes, sir.
Then